Mayo experience.
Mayo experience. Mayo experience. Mayo experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by DraftKings. Reminder to all of you to smash the like out there, sub to the channel, and subscribe to the CUST Corner exclusive audio podcast feed where you can watch them on Mayo Media Network, all of them. You can catch up on all of the oldies, but still goodies on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify, because this is the 45th edition of CUST Corner.
CUST Corner, it's CUST Corner. CUST Corner, it's CUST Corner. He's got the hottest takes with the highest stakes. He should be president of the United States, but it's CUST Corner, it's CUST Corner. CUST Corner,
That's not what it's called.
I heard it is what it's called.
No, it's not.
If you search it, will it come up?
I don't know what it'll come up. It should come up as Top Cat Corner or something like that.
Does it, though?
I don't know. I don't usually
What do you think, Garion Thorne?
I think we're getting old, is mostly what I think. And yet, Tim's takes remain just as terrible as they were 10 years ago.
I suppose that's true. Do you want to kick one off here?
Sure. I mean, I have a list of things we can discuss, and then some maybe we'll hold back for the mini. But so I'm very. I have several frustrations with grocery stores right now. I think I should be able to drive an F1 car on a track.
Okay, let's start with that.
Okay.
Whoa!
All right. It seems to me, this occurred to me as I was thinking about when we did the Super Bowl experience in Minnesota. And it was a really fun experience to do sort of combine stuff. And it seems to me that all professional sports should have venues where the average Joe can just go participate in some of the events that a sport has. And it seems to me that F1's in Canada, there ought to be tracks around where you can just get in an F1 car and try to drive an F1 car through the... They're looking at me. But I mean, I think it would be actually a lot of fun.
I'm not debating that it would be a lot of fun.
And I think I should be able to get behind
the
the wheel of an F1 car like a McLaren and just zoom around the track.
Well, here's the difference. At the NFL Combine experience that we did, you got to run a 40. So their biggest liability was you having a heart attack trying to run as fast as you can. Garion, with the F1, first you have to build a track, which is apparently not just at the one track that we have in the country, or the four that people have that around wherever they're at in their country. You have to build specific tracks for all of this. But additionally, you're now getting into a car that's probably worth $30 million or something crazy like that.
It may be expensive, but look, you can sign a waiver before
that you're on the hook for the $30 million?
Well, no, not for that, but in
for
case
what then? What are you on the hook for?
In case I get injured or something.
No one gives a shit if you get injured. They care about the car.
I should be. You don't have to have it. You can put a governor on it so that I can't get it up to 250 kilometers an hour.
So you just want to drive in a car at 40 kilometers an hour?
No. I should be able to zoom around at 160 or so and just
miles per hour.
No, kilometers an hour.
You won't even drive 110 in your car.
I will at times. It would be a lot of fun, and it's so much easier to drive an F1 car, I think, than a lot of other cars, because you don't have to do the physical shifting of the gears. It's all on the little steering wheel.
Have you ever? I mean, I have those in my car, the pedals.
Yeah, the pedal shift. You can just click a button and I go, oh, this gear.
So
up,
you
this
have
gear
never
down.
used them, have you?
Well, no, because I don't have the opportunity to use them. It would be a lot of
Tim,
fun.
do you even play video games? You're talking about it like it's a video game controller, which it sort of is. But you don't strike me as someone who has a lot of experience just playing video games.
Not racing games, but again, this is all part of the experience. You get to put the helmet on and the suit, and you get into the car, and you just get to zoom around and weave through the track. And
Hold on a second.
It'd be a lot of fun.
The suit. You get to put on the suit. How much do you think that suit's worth?
Well, I'm sure the high-end ones are a few $100.
Do you think that there are low-end F1 anything?
You can get a lower-end one, I'm sure, for this purpose that they could.
This isn't a real thing. Why would they have low-end ones?
So that people who are the average Joe can come off the street, put one on, and drive around.
They're not going to...
If you want to get people... F1 in particular is a growing sport. A way to get people really, into the sport in places in the world where they're not as popular would be to allow the average person at certain events to get in the car and cruise around in it and have experience. And you can tell people, actually, I've been in an F1 car and here's sort of how it works. And when you're watching the races, you can sort of say to people, okay, well, this is actually what they're doing here. And if I've been in one before, I think it would be a lot of fun.
Wait, you just want to be able to mansplain F1 to people? That's your
No.
goal?
I just think it would be a lot of fun, and it would also drum up a lot of interest if people could just like the way at an air show, you like get in line to fly around in a plane a little bit. You could
They don't let you fly the plane.
No, but like you would have to like do a like watch a little video or something, and you just drive around. And you get to as long as you have a driver's license, you can cruise around in one of these things. Show me where the gas pedal is, where the gear shifts are.
You can't even drive a standard regular car.
I think these would be easier. I don't think F1 cars seem that hard to drive compared to like a regular, like a stock car, which I think is probably harder to drive.
Okay, first and foremost, there are simulators.
That's
so like
the answer.
you can get
So far.
close to this experience, as close as you'll ever get to this experience. The other thought I have is there's something similar to this with NASCAR. I remember specifically going down to Disney World when I was like 8 years old, and Universal Studios had the Daytona experience where you could pay a crazy amount of money to get in a stock car and drive around Daytona. But like stock cars, much more similar to like the average car. I think there were restrictor plates in the cars to tell you how fast you could go. Daytona is a circle, not a street course.
Yes.
And the track's just there all the time, which I think is the big issue here. And that's the other thing is like, you know, you hear about famous people getting to be in like the pace car for a NASCAR race because someone else is driving. There's room for other people in those types of cars. An F1 car, I don't even know if I could fit physically in an F1 car. Like those things are small.
Well,
man.
you have to make them a little bigger so that the average person can get in it.
Why would they do that? Why would they?
So that people can have the experience, because it would be a lot of fun to drive around in an F1 car.
You want to do that? Raise your $50 million and build a fucking car.
Well, I'm not going to be able to do
Well, then
that.
you can't get in a fucking F1 car.
I just think it would be an awesome experience, and people would be hyped for it.
That's great. And so what you're proposing that they do is just lose $100 million so you can drive in it.
You put governors on it.
No, I'm just saying they would still have to build this car for you.
They have millions of these cars in stock.
They just have
one
they
from
just
3
have
years ago.
F1 cars.
Use one
laying
from
around.
3 years ago or 2 years ago, like one that's like last year's model or whatever.
You still need to build the
But
tracks.
Tim, this like Pat's major point here.
How much do you think it would cost to build a track?
I have no idea.
Give me an estimate.
Depends where, I suppose. If you built it like somewhere where there was already some street, like I don't know, like $1 million. Because it's not going to have to be one that like the actual race is taking place on. It has to be. Stop doing that. It has to be one that like people could just cruise around in.
$1 million to build a racetrack is what your estimate is.
Not a racetrack that the actual racers would be on.
You
but
can't build a fucking sidewalk for $1 million.
You could even have it like one of those big airplane hangars. Like those things are huge, and you could just like cruise around in one of those.
So you need to buy the airplane hangar.
There's lots of those around.
Oh yeah, there's tons around. How much do you think airplane hangars go for
I
these days?
don't have the slightest
More or
idea.
less than $1 million because we haven't even started to construct the track yet.
And then you can charge people like $1,000 a person to get in and like drive around and cruise around in an F1 car.
this is the worst idea.
It would be so much fun.
I'm not debating that it would be fun.
It's all part of my theory. Like there should be stuff at the gym that I can practice like at the Olympics. There should be stuff that I could do like an F1 racer. There
But
should
that's like a pretty good idea. That's not insane when you
This
say
isn't
there should be
insane.
like it is. It's completely
It doesn't
insane.
have to be
Again,
F1. Make it F2 then or something. Whatever they're driving.
even putting aside the logistics of it, it is insane for you to think as a normal person you can hop into an F1 car that like those things flip as soon as the slightest bit of air gets under them in the wrong direction or you take a turn in the wrong way. And you think you can get in there and drive, I think you said 160 kilometers an hour in an F1 car?
Yeah, that's like half of the speed that they're racing on some of those tracks. So basically, I'm driving half speed.
for the highest end, fastest cars on Earth.
How much fun would that be? How excited? How much more buy-in would there be from the public about F1 racing?
Well, considering if you're talking about your average Joe, you're now charging them $1,000 a minute to drive in a car. You think it's going to be a real big hit?
I mean, people spend $10,000 a person to go play in the World Series of Poker. So this is a tenth of that price to get the buy into that. The average Joe goes to that all
You
the
might
time.
actually win money doing that last one.
You might, but
There's
more than
payoff.
likely you won't.
Sure.
Sure.
It's all about the experience and the opportunity.
The only likelihood of me getting an F1 car is I'm going to die. So
No
I feel
faith.
like maybe winning the World Series of
As long as you have
Poker
a
is a
driver's
better
license.
sort of draw.
This is
Look,
crazy.
It's just driving.
I live
Like I said, you
like,
can't
if
fit
I-
into it. You would have to lose 200 pounds.
They would have to obviously have different size cars.
Then you're not fucking driving an F1 car anymore.
It's close enough.
So it doesn't need to be an F1 car.
Okay,
now.
so it's just another thing I'm not allowed to do. I'm not allowed to
well,
practice.
you go do it. You want to do it. You go construct it.
But no, they should be available for the average person. Just get in a car and drive.
But it's not.
They
It's
are.
F1.
It's called go-karts.
Yeah, go drive a go kart.
It's not the same thing.
Look, Tim,
as driving the
I
same sort of races through
understand.
Monaco is what you're saying?
It doesn't have to be Monaco. It could just be out somewhere like by an airport or something. Like one of those test tracks you always see on TV where people are like they're testing cars at. Mm-hmm. They're already
Look,
built.
man, I understand this because
Thank
I
you.
live like 200 meters from where the IndyCar track in Toronto is constructed every single year. Even I think it was 3 weeks ago, they had still left the actual like IndyCart barriers up on the lakeshore. So when you turn onto the lakeshore, I start making noises with my mouth, like "Wah," and driving like 90K because it's very fun to pretend you're on a racetrack. But you're insane. You're insane. Like, there's no way this could ever be profitable. So many people would die. So many people
No,
would
they
die.
wouldn't.
Yes, they would.
Find the right speed. We have advanced scientists. Find the right speed where it's safe for the average person to drive at.
But no one makes any money off this. Why would people do this?
Because it would be extremely popular.
No, it would. Okay, maybe it would be. Let's say it was extremely popular. How would they ever recoup their money?
Well, if you're paying $1,000 a head every time and you have like 300 people a day who are wanting to do it or whatever.
300 people a day at a racetrack, paying $1,000 an hour. This is what your projection is for them just to break even.
I'm not saying they're going to break particularly even. It could be a loss leader.
A loss leader on their 100 to 200
It
million.
gets a lot more people invested in the sport, want to spend money and time.
I
and
think
attention.
F1's doing fine.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking this would be a really cool experience that would increase viewership, and it would be awesome, and it would be fun. And it's like, why can't we have fun things?
You won't even attempt to do a cartwheel, and you want to get in an F1 car.
Well, yeah, but that's different.
How is that different?
Because then you're just in the seat and you just push the buttons and then you steer.
Feel like there's a bit more to that, pal.
I think it's not as nearly as physically intensive
I mean,
What are you talking about?
yeah, wait.
as like gymnastics.
I mean, we're just asking you to do a cartwheel. Like, I don't think you could survive. I mean, I don't think I could survive like
You
150
might
laps on a
pass
NASCAR.
out from the G-force.
Well, like, the G-force is at the top speeds, but like put the governor in so I can only do 100 kilometers an hour. Then that's fine. That's the same speed we drive.
But then
on
at that point, you're just in a go-kart. So just go
but
go-kart.
you're in the actual F1 car and you're moving.
You think this is how you do it, like this?
You got to lean into the turns, I'm sure.
You can't
Shut up,
fit in the
it's not a
fucking
bike.
car.
Sure, they could just expand the cab so that people can get in.
That's exactly how F1 cars work.
Well, not the top line ones that like.
But I'm
Lewis
telling you
Hamilton
again,
is
are
in.
there non-top line ones?
Well, there's subfields of F1. So like, take an old F2 car that's like 5 years old and modify it.
You realize those are still basically top of the line, right? They're not sending them out there in jalopies.
No, but like, take a one that's 2 or 3 years old and like expand the cab so the average Joe can get in. And let's zoom. That'd be so
How
much
much
fun.
do you think an F1 car costs? Let's start there.
I have no idea.
Just take a guess.
a top of the line one is probably like $15 million.
It's got to be way more than that.
Way more than that.
The average F1 car is estimated to cost between $20 and $30 million.
Okay.
However, this figure only accounts for the car's initial construction.
Okay, yeah, it's not including the maintenance, et cetera, et cetera.
Maintenance, the research and development.
So I don't
to make
need a
it
top
faster.
of the line one. Just
The widening of the driver's seat.
give me one from like 2014. Let's go.
Yeah, let's get out there with amateurs driving old beat up F1 cars. That's really the solution to this problem.
I think
Let's get some with like rusty wheel wells and like nuts and bolts that aren't entirely tightened. That'll
you
go perfect.
watch when people hear this, they will be on my side.
So there's another thing too. So with your if you can, how are you going to get 300 people a day in a car? By the way,
Well, that may be too many.
so that would cost you'd make $300,000 in revenue based on your model, and that's before any expenses. A Formula One car uses about $500,000 of gas during an entire season for their practice and racing sessions. So if you have this many people going all day on a car, how much gas do you think you're going to be using?
A lot, but you don't have to use the high test stuff because this is just people driving around. You can cut,
Do you think that those cars work on the lowest grade fuel?
not the lowest, but you don't have to go all out.
Why are we even doing this?
It's no different than like at the NFL experience. They're not using the highest end cameras or the best footballs you can throw or the best footballs you can kick.
I mean, you can only make football so good.
Yeah, but there are better and worse versions of these things. Can all be worked out.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say the NFL branded Super Bowl or Combine experience at the Super Bowl is probably using NFL footballs.
They were.
I'm just saying, you can work these.
You're just saying a lot of things. None of it makes any sense.
It comes down to this. I want to get into an F1 car and zoom around. I think it would be a lot of fun, and I know I'm not alone by believing this.
Sure, I would also.
I want to win the lottery.
I
Doesn't
would-
mean I think it's going to happen.
Yeah, I would also like to ride in an F1 car. It's not happening.
Well, instead of just saying it's not going to happen, why don't I'm trying to spin out an idea.
Then
where
win
it
the
might
fucking
be-
lottery and build your own fucking car.
where it might be possible.
That's the only way that it's possible. No one's giving you an F1 car to drive around in.
I just think that they should.
That's it. Just they should.
They should. It would be fun. People would like it.
All right. What else you got?
So there's a couple of things at grocery stores recently that have been really bothering me. As a person who buys for himself, there's just way too much stuff at the grocery store in terms of the way it's packaged. And that really annoys me. I don't want a pack of 3 pork chops. I just want 1. I don't want a pack of like 4 steaks. I just want 1 or 2. I don't need a box of 12 ice cream sandwiches. I just want 2 or 3 because if I buy the amount that you get at the grocery store, I'm going to eat it all. You know what I believe, that you should eat everything that you got and you shouldn't let it go to waste. I understand that the average grocery store is built to accommodate families who have to feed 4 or 5 people. I get that 100%. Either there should be little boutique grocery stores for single people, or there should be sections within a grocery store where you can buy single person servings of the food that you want to buy. Not pre-made stuff, but like a pork chop or like 6 strips of bacon. Or
6 strips of bacon?
something like a small amount, because it's too much. I go to the grocery store and there's too much stuff everywhere. And like there's good deals on stuff and I can't buy it because I know there's no possible way I'm going to get through it all in a reasonable way. And I hate freezing and thawing food over and over again.
Paul?
It was about freezing.
It was about freezing. Garion, do single people eat crackers?
Frankly, I don't want to know.
Crackers are a great example. I never get through a whole sleeve of Breton crackers. Ever, ever, ever. They end up going stale and going to waste because there's just too many in a sleeve. Cut that into a
Would
third.
you say crackers, it's implied that they're to condign?
Yes, the serving size. Yes, very funny, Garion. My point is, and I think I'm right about this, that the average serving at a grocery store, the average thing that's packaged, is designed for a family of 4 or 5. But there's a lot of us out there who are just eating for 1. And so they should provide...
Are you eating for 1?
Yes, I am eating. I'm cooking for 1. I'm eating for 1. What I consider 1, me alone. If you make it so that I have to buy 3 pork chops, I'm going to have to eat 3 pork chops. I don't want to eat 3 pork chops. Even
Just
if I
go to the deli counter and get a pork chop.
It's more difficult
No,
than that.
no, it's not. You
Then I have to inconvenience myself to ask them to take
I'm
this
sorry.
package of 3
To get
pork
what
chops.
you want that is off the beaten path of what people want to do, you actually have to spend an extra 30 seconds doing something?
It could be even longer. And I have
Oh,
to do
no.
I have to do, and that's just with fresh stuff. Like when it comes to lettuce, I'm never going to eat an entire head of lettuce. It's not going to happen. It's going to go to waste.
Here's a spoiler alert. No one's ever gotten through an entire thing of
But a
lettuce.
family might.
No, family of 12's not getting through a
Like
thing
it's
of lettuce.
perfectly, or like potatoes. I don't want a big bag of potatoes. I just
You
want.
can buy your potatoes
You can
individually.
literally go to the produce
But there's-
section and pick up 2 potatoes and put them in a bag.
But they're not always the type of potatoes that I want.
Do you
There
have
might
a
be
big? Do you have a big preference? Or are you a big like russet man?
I like the little tiny nugget potatoes. They're so easy to cook.
Okay, you can buy a little small bag.
But
of
the
those.
small bag is still too much for
They
one
also
serving.
come in a
And then I'm
resealable bag.
And then they're not usually resealable, actually. And then what I've got to do is then eat little nugget potatoes for 4 days. I don't want to eat them for 4 days.
You
I
know,
just want them for one particular
potatoes
meal.
last, by the way.
But I don't. I like
Yeah.
to buy fresh, and I don't want to have.
Potatoes aren't fresh.
They're fresh to me.
No one's ever,
So it
no one's
doesn't
ever
mean they're
dug a
fresh.
potato out of the ground and went, ooh,
No,
fresh.
But, like, I think I'm onto something here, right?
Really, you've
Look, man,
seen it.
I get what you're saying.
Yes, thank you.
Like, I
Everything's too
remember
much.
being 20 and I was like, ooh, I want a half loaf of bread. And I
Yes.
was like, this is my $1 million idea. I'm going to call it bachelor bread.
Yes.
And it's going to be half the size.
Thank you. A loaf of bread. I never get through a loaf of bread. I'm not freezing my bread and then taking it out of the freezer. I hate doing that. It ruins the taste of it. I just want the loaf. It's just so annoying. Or if there's muffins, I just want a muffin or 2 muffins. I don't want 12 muffins. Or I want a steak or a pork
Well, you can
chop.
get a steak, no problem. Like that's
That can
not
happen
hard to find.
if they're like the really nice ones.
Yeah,
but if you're just getting a regular steak.
Regular steak, you walk into around us, a Superstore or Sobeys, they have single package like shitty steak for you.
Not usually.
Yeah, they do. You can buy a $7
And even
steak
if they
by
do,
itself.
the selection is far less than the larger.
Of course it is.
So I'm just saying.
You know why? Because they sell a lot less of them.
I understand there's economies of scale and why they do what they do. I get all that.
But you don't care.
I'm
You
just
want it
saying
for you.
It's inconvenient for me. What would be convenient for me is to have a single section of the grocery store where I can get a half or like a quarter of a pie, or I could get 3 ice cream bars, or I could get a pork chop, or I could get one tiny little bag of salad. Like the big bags of salad, the salad bags you get these days, they're way too much for one serving. And then I'm committing to having to eat whatever salad I buy for 2, 3, 4 days. I'm not doing that. It gets wilty. There's brown stuff on it when the air gets to it once you open the bag. I want what I want. And I think there's
And you want it now.
And I think there's a lot of people like me who grocery shop for one, who would be very happy to have smaller selections for everything. Because so much food waste takes place because it's just not fresh, it's not good.
So are you concerned about food waste, or are you just concerned about you eating too much?
Both. Okay. I'm concerned about me feeling like I have to eat too much so that I don't waste the food. I believe that whatever's on my plate, I need to finish. You know that I believe this. This is the way I was raised.
Again, very terrible way to be raised.
Nevertheless, it's hard for me not to eat what's on my plate. And it's funny.
Buy smaller plates.
Well, I have smaller plates, but it's just like then I have all that extra food. I'm not going to go through all this effort to cook like a really nice Parmesan-style potato that I'll cook sometimes. So I make a really nice one where I boil the potatoes and I fry them in some oil, little nugget ones. Fry them in some oil, I add some Parmesan cheese, I add some pesto. They're actually quite delicious. But then I have all these potatoes. I'm not doing it again. I was in the mood to do it once. I'm not in the mood to do it multiple times. And then if I do a big batch, then I'm like compelled to have to eat it and reheat it. It's not as good the next time. It would be a real boon for as more and more and more people are single and purchasing and in the need to purchase smaller and smaller items. It would reduce on food waste. It would be economical. People wouldn't feel compelled to eat as much. It would be super convenient if there were like single sections of a grocery store where you could buy smaller portions of everything. I think it's a great idea.
I kind of want this to exist just because I think it would be the saddest grocery store in the world. It's like to get in, instead of showing your Costco membership, you have to show your Instagram account that's just lonely photos of you at places. I don't know, man. Like, look, I get what you're saying, but I think for most of the examples you've used, there are very simple solutions. I don't know, join a food co-op, you can share your food.
I don't want to do that.
Why don't you want to do that?
I don't understand.
So you don't want to do anything.
I just want to go to the grocery store, buy the exact amount of food
I'm
that
sorry,
I need, and then leave.
The grocery store is not made for you.
This is what I'm complaining about.
It's for people who actually spend money.
Make
not
it for
the
me.
cheapest person on earth.
Make it. Well, first,
your examples with anything, you're just aging out of a demo. No one gives a shit about what you think.
But there's also a lot of people who are seniors who are single, who also need smaller portions. Yeah. There's just too much stuff.
Paul, this is a problem that you experience as well. Are you as triggered about it as Tim is?
No, but I don't have any issue with freezing things, which I find really, really strange. Like, you can put a steak in the freezer and then let it thaw, and you're not really going to notice much of a difference.
You can do that with
especially if you're not buying good steak. And I love the fact that you keep bringing up ice cream bars, which literally live in the freezer.
No, but it happened to me recently. I bought ice cream bars because they were on sale, but there's 12 of them. Well, I can't just not eat them. So, I end up eating over the run of a week 12 ice cream bars because they're in the freezer.
You're just blaming
Have some
packaging.
self-control, man.
Okay, but you know what? It's so difficult.
Then go to the gas station and buy a ice cream bar.
But then I have to transport it, not in a box, home. I'm not going to the grocery. No.
You're eating that thing on the way home. Don't pretend you're not.
I did eat one on the way. I did open the box in the car and eat one on the way home. That did happen. But look, I'm bringing this up because I think there is an untapped market here, particularly the way demographics are working, where fewer and fewer people are going to be buying groceries for fewer and fewer people. That there really is. I understand when I go to Costco what I'm getting into. I know if I'm purchasing something, I'm purchasing a large bulk quantity. I get that. That's the name of the game there. But when I go to the grocery store, I'd like to see more things set up for a larger and a growing demographic.
So let me talk as someone who owns a business.
Sure.
Not doing it. Not worth my time. It's going to cost me money to help you out. You know what's not costing me money? bigger packages. You know why they're not putting single serving things on special? Because they need to get rid of the bulk content.
Oh, I get that, but like,
So they're never going to do it.
well, but they should
Well,
do
that's
it.
the
Why
thing,
should they
Tim.
do it? So they want to lose money.
Because there are more and more people like me who don't purchase certain things because it's just too much. I would make purchases
Tim-
that I otherwise don't make.
But you're going to
Tim,
buy
would
it
you be
anyway.
willing
Not
to pay
necessarily.
more per?
What was the
would you
last
be
thing
willing
you
to pay
passed
more per
on?
unit?
There were some really, really nice bone-in pork chops that I saw the other day that I really wanted to buy, but it was a pack of like 3.
How much were they?
They weren't expensive.
How much were they?
Like $7, $8, $9.
So what if they charge you $7, $8 for one? Would
No,
you
but
buy
if they
it then?
charged me $4,
They don't.
for
They
one,
don't want to charge you $4. They want to package them together.
But
Get
if
rid
they
of
charged
this
me
shit.
$4 for one, I would have bought.
How about this? They charge you 3 times as much for single serving, and then you can have
Not
it.
3 times. Do I expect there to be a slightly bigger charge? Yes, because I understand how economies of scale work. If I'm asking to only buy 1 hamburger instead of 4 hamburgers, I appreciate I'm not getting it for a quarter of the price. Maybe it's just a third of the price.
Maybe it's half the price. Maybe it's 3/4 of the price.
We can play
'Cause
around-
What I would do is just jack up the price on all that.
We
shit.
can play around. Well, those people usually have more disposable income too.
Perfect.
We can play around with the stuff on the margins, and the company
but
can
if
make
you,
more money.
But if you walked into a place, knowing you, so you saw 3 pork chops for $9, let's say, or you saw 1 pork chop for $5, you would buy the 3.
No, I
Yes,
wouldn't.
yes, you
I'd
would.
go ahead and spend the $4.99 on the 1 pork. That's all I want. I don't want to have to be pot committed to eating pork chops for the next 3 nights. I just want it tonight. No, you shake your head, but I actually think there's a real demo here for people. And also with
Then why don't you go start? You have all these great
I'm
ideas.
giving the idea away
What-
here. Take it.
And no one's
Run with
taking it. Do you know why? Because they're not going to make any fucking
I don't
money.
know how many people have thought about it or expressed it
Yes,
in a
no,
public
no one
forum.
has ever thought of this.
Make it a single section in the grocery store. And when I'm at the grocery store, there should be valets who will do all of my scanning for me and my packaging for me. I shouldn't, I don't want to go, not only do I not want to go
Oh,
through the
the
self-checkout.
cashier.
I don't even want to go through the cashier. I don't want to have to take my stuff out of the basket, put it
Oh
on
my
the belt,
God.
have them do it. These days, you have to bag pretty much all your stuff most of the time. I want it so that when I've done all my purchases, I simply give my cart to a person who does all the scanning for me. I give them my credit card like you do at a restaurant, and they just do everything for me, and they bring the stuff to me and the receipt to me, and we're done. I don't want to have to do any of that.
How much would you tip that person?
I don't know.
Think
I mean,
about it.
I don't know if I should I have to tip them if they're employees of the store. That's
Yes.
their job.
Yes,
at the
that,
grocery
that,
store.
that,
should have
that
to
is
tip them.
legitimately something you should
you
tip
don't
for.
tip the cashier who brings in your stuff, so
No.
you wouldn't tip the person.
Well, you're talking about a private valet now.
No, this is someone who works at Superstore. That their job at the Superstore is to be the valet for people who don't want to have to put stuff on the. You could even put on the receipt like an additional $5 charge. or something.
$5 is what you think that would cost. Like you would have to pay probably $50 for that to be.
That's too much.
Then you know why they don't exist? Because of that.
No, but I just think it's the same way with the way you would with an attendant who pumps your gas,
Which
or
basically don't exist.
well, they do exist in some places.
Where?
Fewer and fewer all the time.
Yeah.
Granted. But I'm just saying, I don't want to have to handle all my stuff to put it on the belt. I don't want to have to bag it. I don't want to. I want it all done for me.
So here's your problem.
I'm spending my money
yeah,
here
but you're
as
not,
it is.
You're not spending enough money is the problem. With the person who goes and
Make it a minimum purchase then. It has to be.
What
at
I'm
least
telling you
six-
is you're going to have to pay like an additional $50 for this.
No, it doesn't
Or
need to
more.
be that.
Yes, it does.
But
Here's
just
why.
say,
Here is why. If someone is pumping your gas for you, they can still get through X amount of customers per hour to make it worth the while of the place to afford them. With a cashier, they're running through 100 people per hour in order to do this. If a single person is your valet, they're getting through 1 customer an hour.
No,
That's it.
Because the valet doesn't.
Oh,
do,
no?
All the valet does is take your basket when you're done. They run it through the cashier. They put it in the bag.
So they're a cashier, is what you're saying.
That's
Yeah, but
it.
now you have two employees working at the same thing.
If you have this though, I'm going to your grocery store and not to other ones.
But you don't want to pay the money that it's going to cost.
Put a service charge.
I'm telling
on
you,
it.
$50.
That's too much. But
Well,
put-
then it doesn't exist.
make it
Tim,
a
these places
percentage
take
of the,
this
of the
stuff
check.
really seriously. Like I when I was a cashier, there were cashier statistics. They told you how many items you were ringing through per minute,
Sure.
how many customers you were getting through per hour. Like this is all about efficiency and speed. They want to serve as many people as possible. They were basically telling me, stop bagging things as carefully as you are. You're not going fast enough.
And I think there's a place for the regular cashier line and for the self-checkout. That's great. But there should also be an opportunity for those of us who don't want to go through the hassle of that whole process to have it looked after for us.
What you're talking
They have
about.
this. It's called Instacart.
Instacart.
No,
You
but
can
I
sit
want to be
in
the one who
parking
picks
lot
out
and have
my
people
green
do
pepper.
this
No,
for
but I want to pick up my green pepper.
Then you're
I
going to
wanna-
have to pay the fucking service charge on it.
But
and the service charge is going to be a ton of money.
No, it doesn't need to be a
but
ton
it
of money.
does need to be a ton of
And
money.
it should be gratis over a certain amount of money if I'm at the grocery store.
Yeah, but you don't spend that much at a grocery store.
No, I don't. But again, that would encourage people to come and spend.
If you go and spend $1,000 at the grocery store, you can have your own personal
well,
valet.
not 1,000. That seems excessive.
How much? What's the limit?
I don't know. I don't.
Give me a limit.
$300.
Probably not worth it.
Why don't you just hire a personal assistant?
Yeah.
No, I don't want a personal assistant. I just want.
but you
Sounds
do.
like you do.
I just want somebody to take care of the part of the grocery shopping experience that I can't stand, which is the
grocery
waiting in
shopping.
line, the putting it on the belt, the bagging it, the carrying of the bags. Like, that's all just really inconvenient for me. It should all just be done for me once I've picked out my items and once I've decided what it is I'm going to purchase. It would be really nice. It would be a very nice perk if there was somebody who just was your valet, who was a valet. That was their job at the grocery store, would be to handle people's stuff for them.
Paul?
Well, okay, how about this? How about with your Costco membership, you have to pay an extra $150 a month and you get that service.
I don't expect any service at Costco. I know what Costco is.
Paul?
Yeah, Costco has like a second person usually at like most of them.
Yes.
Do you go there and wait for them to put the food onto the runner for you?
Well, I don't put the heavy stuff up.
Oh my! Well, you're not supposed to. Like
No.
the pop and stuff, you're supposed to keep underneath.
No, the regular stuff I put on myself. Yeah.
Okay,
So Costco has what you want.
Not quite.
but everything's too big.
Like, I want to give you my cart, and then I want to walk and go to my car. And I want to turn the car on, put the AC on or whatever, roll down my windows, and I just want to chill. And then you, like parcel pickup style, you show up to my car with everything bagged and the receipt and my credit card back. And boom, done. What a convenience that would be. People would love it. Not everybody would. Some people wouldn't be willing to pay the additional service charge. Some people don't mind bringing in their own stuff. People don't mind standing in line. Great. God bless you. That'll always be available. But for those of us
If the
who don't
service
wanna,
charge is $5, I think people are going to be willing to pay that.
Yeah.
Which is why $5 isn't enough.
it can be a percentage then of your bill. Make it a percentage of your bill. I don't care. Like, again, these are all things that we can work out on the margins. I don't have to come here with a fully fleshed out, perfect system.
But I'm
in order
telling you,
to make
what
sense.
the minute what you never seem to consider is these businesses are designed to make money.
They're making lots of money.
but they don't want to make less money.
they'll make more because I'll go more.
No,
often.
they won't make more.
I'll go more often because of this.
You're going anyway.
But I will go to that store. You'll become my place. I do all my shopping. Yes,
It doesn't matter if you go more, you're still eating the same amount of food.
But I am.
I could go to the grocery store every day. It doesn't mean they're getting more money
But
if I
go to
the same amount of groceries I buy in a week.
But I go to a multiplicity of grocery stores based on where some deals are and stuff, and where I get some good coupons. I would just stop
No, you
that.
don't.
I get the flyers. I look at the flyers, see what's on sale. You better believe I do. Like cherries were on for $2.99 a pound this week. I went somewhere particularly.
Is that why you drove to that grocery store that was 50 minutes away?
wasn't
Where you
50.
burned like eight
It
times as
wasn't-
much money in
it
gas to
wasn't-
get your
it
$1
wa-
deal?
It wasn't 50 minutes away. It was like 20 minutes.
No, it's not 20 minutes away.
It's like 20 minutes.
Wait, you can't be bothered to stand in line at the grocery store, but you'll drive 20
Well,
minutes.
but I'm
from
driving-
the
it's more than
on
20
cherries.
But when I'm driving, I'm doing stuff. I'm listening to the radio. I'm having a coffee.
Put in headphones when you're at the cash.
Well, that's very antisocial behavior.
So is driving alone in your car.
But I'm not in public that way, though. That's a little different.
Oh, so it just, it's shameful to you to do that in public.
Why can't I make things more? We live in a society
You
where the name of the game is
You can
convenience.
do all of this stuff. You're too fucking cheap to pay for it.
No, I'm not too cheap. I said put a service charge on.
No,
that.
you have to go find someone to do this for you.
I just don't. The grocery store should have one or two staff members whose job it
One
is-
or two staff members. Well, what if I come in and I'm spending a bunch of money and there's no valets available for me? Now I'm fucking pissed off.
Then that will be the reason to hire more valets.
You think the grocery
job
store is going to
creation
hire
program.
it so a bunch of people are just standing at the front not doing anything until someone requests their service?
Yes.
And these places are having problems hiring people to begin with, just to do the main stuff that these places need to operate.
Oh, but this is not a very taxing job. If I were working in a grocery store, this would be like a plum appointment, wouldn't it?
Well, if it's not a very taxing thing, then you do it.
But I don't want to. I'm the one spending my money. I should be looked after.
Yeah, but you're not spending enough money. When you start spending enough money, like, you do get perks.
Oh, you get Sobeys perks, do you?
I mean, if you spent enough money, you would get returned from the store if you had one of those credit cards, which that guy tried to sell me. I don't fucking want this shit.
Sobeys has those cool carts now too with the little computers in them.
We don't have
You know.
those, thank goodness.
They have those around here.
Okay, I have not encountered one.
I mean, I specifically go to one of the grocery stores that I can scan my items as I go, that I can pay while I'm walking out. It's super
Because I've
convenient.
been to the grocery stores that are closest to you not that long ago, and I didn't see anything like that.
They are not the ones that are closest to me. Now, are they?
Oh, so you too go to grocery stores that aren't the closest to you
Yes.
because there's something for you in it.
Yes, because
Gee, who does that sound like? The person you just accused of being foolish for driving in an additional direction to a grocery store when you do the exact same thing that I do.
one is 5 minutes away, one is 7 minutes away.
What's
Not
the difference?
50 minutes away.
It's not 50 minutes.
And
Stop
you're
saying
going to
that.
save basically no money. I'm going to save my
I
time.
also like to drive. It's something to do.
Then
Get
how
out of
do
the
you have a
house.
problem waiting in a fucking grocery store?
I don't like it. Okay, I don't want to have to I already handled it once. I don't want to feel like I have to handle it again, and then I have to scan.
But if-
It's just a whole thing, right? It occurred to me the other day, like how super awesome would it be if when I picked up my last item, I could just drop my basket off to somebody and say, I'm parked over on this side of the parking lot. Here's my card.
I agree. Listen, what you're saying is not wrong. This would be great if
If
you
you
could
were
do
a
it.
single parent with kids, you'd love this because you wouldn't have to. You could go right to the car, right? Like, I can
You're
think of-
speaking for single parents now?
I'm saying.
You know what it's like to be a single parent?
You know that I don't, but I'm saying.
But you're going to talk
you
for
can
them anyway.
imagine-
Talk to their experience.
You can imagine a multiplicity of circumstances.
Yes,
where it
everyone would
benefit.
want to do this. That's the problem.
Then maybe they could sow.
No, because it's not going to make the grocery store any money.
Yes,
Part
it
of the
will.
grocery store experience is that why do you think they're getting rid of cashiers and telling you to do it yourself?
I understand.
So so you think their great idea is going to be have personal valets
But-
for every single fucking person who walks
Well,
through the
not,
store?
not every person. 'cause
Well,
most-
why wouldn't every person
still
want to
think
do it?
most
If you
people-
made it as cheap as you want to make it, every person would do this.
it's no different than like how many people won't spend an extra 50 cents for a bag when there's all kinds of bags there. They bring their own bags because they don't want to spend that extra money, and that's fine. I suspect the majority of people will not want to take advantage of this service. Will not want to pay that.
That's
additional
why you
service
need to
charge.
make it a lot of money because people would do
It
it.
doesn't have to be a lot.
Yeah, it
of
does.
money.
It does need to be a lot of money because you need to weed
Got to be
out-
enough money to pay the salaries of like the 6 people you want to hire.
We don't know how many people you need to hire. You'd have to stress test this in one store and see what the uptake is and that kind of stuff.
Well, let's say you charge.
Well, even if you want one person there, grocery stores are open 15 hours a day, 7 days a week. So you'd have to hire at least 6 to just cover that amount of time to have 1 or 2 people there with overlap. Hell, you'd probably have to hire 12 people to do
But you
this.
could also close 1 or 2 cashiers down that are no longer being used.
So your big idea is close down the place where you get money through faster to make less money.
Well, you're not making less money because you're paying a service charge.
But you are making less money because you're making people wait longer in
Why
the store.
can't I just have what I want?
Because
Why
you
can't I
refuse to
just-
fucking pay for it. You're too fucking cheap.
I will pay.
Then
if
go
it's a
find
reasonable
someone
amount.
to go fucking
But
do this for you.
I-
Go on TaskRabbit and be like, yo, I need groceries.
I don't know how to do that. Secondly,
well, this
I
sounds
don't
like
wanna
this sounds
do
like a
that.
you
It should
problem.
just be there for me. I shouldn't have to put any effort.
I'm
into
sorry,
this.
you're too big of a snowflake to do anything
No,
yourself.
I think having a grocery store valet would be a popular idea. People would be good with it. I think it would be convenient. I think people would go for it, and I think.
But this
it
brings
would
up
also
an
result
entirely
in people
different
spending more
thing.
money.
Where we know for a fact you like talking to people at the grocery store to find out the trends happening at the grocery store. So if you're not waiting in line, that means you're not talking to the cashier and finding out what brand of Coke has been selling recently. And you know you want to do that. So this seems like it's kind of contrasting.
Well, that's a fair point, but I don't always do that. And oftentimes my questions are to the people who are stocking the shelves rather than the cashiers. So that still wouldn't be gone. I would lose some of that amount, but it's not just at grocery stores. I mostly do. I do that at a lot of gas stations, stuff like that. Like there's this new Coke out, this was it Ultimate Coke? And like I asked someone the other day, like, is anyone buying this? Like, who wants this?
And what did they say?
I didn't give me an answer. Like, I don't know, man.
Because you're like harassing like the 16-year-old who's working.
I just asked a simple question. Like, are people buying this?
You got anything else?
Oh, I mean, I have stuff.
Oh, give me some stuff. Oh, I got one for you. Why were porn theaters ever a thing?
Really?
Yeah.
You can't imagine why?
I mean, I get why, but
can-
I could never imagine myself going to a porn theater, having a beat and leaving.
Well, in 1977, you didn't have a VCR. You didn't have cable.
Didn't you have like Betamax? Wasn't that available?
I think, like, let's say 1975. There weren't VCRs.
Yeah, but porn theaters lasted until like the early 90s.
Okay, so why they still existed into the 90s is a lesser question. But, I mean, look,
This came out because Pee Wee Herman died.
Yeah.
R.I.P. my doppelganger, Pee Wee Herman. But like he got caught in like the late 80s. So you had VCRs then.
Particularly as a celebrity, you would, yeah. I guess, you know.
Because Fred Willard got caught in one too.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Also passed away recently.
I mean, recently, as in like,
Like
years ago.
2 years ago? Like 2 years ago, maybe?
Okay.
I mean, the reason was that there's a privacy factor. And
There's the privacy factor of going to a public porn theater.
But public in the sense that nobody knows who you are. So there's anonymity.
I mean, you can see the other people in there. I mean,
Well,
you probably don't want to look at them.
I suspect it's super dark.
If you go to a porn theater in the 70s, you're sitting. The move is to sit as far in the front row as you can, right?
So people can only see the back of your head?
I suspect. I mean,
Also, so you can't see any, like, because then it feels like you're there by yourself. At
Yeah.
least
1975, it's your only access to porn.
Yes.
That I get. But when porn becomes available to you at home, why would anyone ever go to a porn theater? Is it like,
I guess you don't want to get caught at home with the tapes. I guess
that's the only.
it seems real weird.
that would be the reason.
I don't know, just the whole experience just seems very odd.
It seems extremely odd, but we're of a generation where it doesn't make any sense.
Well, yeah, you just get it on your phone. Not a big deal.
But in the 1970s or even the 1980s, like that really wasn't an option for people.
Yeah, but once VCRs became in every home,
It was probably, I mean, I don't know what the cost would be. I suspect maybe it would be cheaper. Like, you don't want to rent something under your name. So there's no record of you renting this tape or that tape. If you just simply go to a theater and give them cash, there's no record of this person who might very well one day run for some public office, and some enterprising person goes through their rental records at Blockbuster, well, not Blockbuster, but some local VCR distributor and say, oh, really, you rented X, Y, or Z video? It could ruin your career or something.
has that
I
ever
just
happened?
don't
Well, didn't
understand.
that happen with the Clarence Thomas?
I don't know.
I thought one of the scandals, I mean, this was 1991, so it was a little bit before my time, although I was alive. I thought there was an issue with him being accused of having rented a particular tape or something, or somebody was accused. There was some sort of tape in it. Maybe it wasn't him. Maybe it was somebody else. But I thought there was some political scandal where there was records of them having rented an adult film, and like that did injury to their political career.
Interesting. Maybe it's just a
A
different
thing that
time.
people would have cared about a lot more in 1989 than they care about now.
Well, they wouldn't care about
They
it. now.
wouldn't care about it now, right? Whereas that might have been an issue.
It just seems really sort of like strange.
Anonymity. I suspect that's got to be the reason. It's pure-
Interesting.
pure-
Okay.
I also just don't understand how they ran at a profit. Because you think about it, like, you're not sitting elbow to elbow with someone at a
Nope,
porn
not.
theater.
No, but you know,
You're not buying concessions. I would
No,
hope.
but I bet you people are coming in.
So,
and
like,
out
where are they making all
throughout
this
the
money?
movie, right? People are entering and exiting all throughout the movie. Right? Someone is not just showing up for the coming attractions.
Well, maybe they are showing up for the coming attractions.
Yeah.
Goodness. Anyway,
Well, no, you beat one off. Like, if it's a 90-minute movie, you beat one off in the first 15 minutes, and then you're recharged for the last,
Yeah, that's why Jack Horner is
45.
trying to
You
make
can
this.
get- you got to get your money's worth. You got to get two off.
You got to sit around. This is a real movie, Jack.
Yeah, I don't understand that whole world. But I guess the only explanation I would give you is I suspect there was a role for anonymity there.
Interesting. Okay, Garion, do you have anything?
Not especially. I feel like I just always assume Tim's going to come ready to go, and so far he has not disappointed.
That is true. I just had the porn theater thing.
I don't understand why in 2023 we are not using the highest form of technology we have when it comes to travel. We stopped using the Concorde jet in like 2003, and we used to be able to fly from Paris to New York in like an hour and 15 minutes. And in the last 20 some odd years, we have seen no progress, essentially, in the speed of travel when it comes to international flights. How is it possible 20, 25 years later, A, we haven't fixed the issues that were plaguing the Concorde in the late 90s, early 2000s, and haven't we come up with some other form of transport in the air that will get us to go faster from New York to California or from London to New York? It seems like if you're a business person, it would make all the sense in the world if I'm Jeff Bezos and I live in Seattle, that I'd want to be able to get to New York City as quickly as humanly possible to do my business. Why should it take me 4 hours to make that flight or 5 hours where we know the technology exists to be able to get there in 90 minutes if we wanted to practice it?
I think it's just too much money.
If you're a super billionaire like Jeff Bezos or Bill Gates or Elon Musk, what do you care how much a Concorde? Why don't you have a private Concorde jet? What do you care how much it costs? You never spend that money.
Well, it just seems to me maybe they don't put a price on, hey, 4 hours, like whatever. It's not like they can't like call and work on their plane.
Well, in one flight, that's true. But if you add up how many flights a person might take in the run of a year, that's a ton of hours where you're not as
I think you're putting
productive
way
as
too
you
much
might be.
importance on like person to person in the current societal age of business.
But even
like,
6
you
or
don't
7 or
need
8
to be
years
in the
ago, it
same
would
room
have
as
been.
anybody.
But it would have been the case 6 or 7 or 8 years ago, and yet no one seemed interested. How is it possible that we move faster and faster when it comes to phones, computers, television, everything, and yet when it comes to something that where speed actually would count, the rapidity of travel, and we have the tools at our disposal to make ourselves travel faster, that in the last 20 years we haven't found any efficiencies. We don't even hear about research on efficiencies to travel great distances in short periods of time.
Because
it
everything,
seems completely illogical.
Because everything that's being researched is in terms of miniaturization, and that's how we're getting faster with things that keep getting smaller and smaller and smaller. What you're talking about is something that's bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yes, but what I'm talking about in particular is reducing the time it takes to get from point A to point B.
It's not cost effective. Not enough people can afford to fly to make it commercial at least. And that was the reason that the Concorde stopped going anyway. The
Yes.
maintenance on those planes
And the
was way
crashes,
higher.
and the crash.
The crashes was a real problem.
Yes, no, of course.
And just the amount of fuel that was burned to propel these at top speeds was a real problem. No one could afford these tickets.
Absolutely, but technology in 2001 versus technology in
Well,
2023.
you think they were just like, when they closed the door on it, they were like, that's it. We're never going to think about it.
It kind of seems like it. That's my concern. It's like it seems so weird. As there's an iron law about technology becoming cheaper and faster at the same time. You think of any invention in the last 50 years. 50 years ago, it was bigger, it was slower, it was more expensive.
But because everything is getting smaller.
You can make a Concorde jet smaller.
Sure, but it's still going to be as expensive to run. And you need people to pay those prices. And people are having problems paying prices for planes anyway.
I think you can find. I'm surprised, shocked, confused that we haven't been able to find some efficiencies with all the technological development we've had to overcome some of those barriers. It seems very strange to me that this is the one area of our life where essentially that travel in the year 2003 and travel in the year 2023 are essentially indistinguishable, except on the margins. That's really weird.
Cars
to me.
haven't changed that much since like the 1960s. It's not like
Cars
if you
Cars
got
have
a
changed an
car
extreme
in New
amount.
York and drove to Los Angeles in 1960, it takes you about the same amount of time it would take you. Actually, probably take less time, so there'd be less cars on the road.
Well, that's true when it's not. We have increased and improved motorways where they continue to build new highways that are more efficient in terms of like the travel distance.
But you can't really do that in the air.
You can't, but you can increase the speed of the vehicle in the air. But we haven't even tried.
Again, that increases the risk factor. I mean, again, it seems like with 2 of your 3 ideas, you're just completely. Do you think you're like Bruce Willis from Invincible, that you just can't die?
No,
and that's
I
probably
don't.
the main reason. If you're talking about like Bezos or Bill Gates, the main reason that they don't take these planes because they're far less safe than the other ones.
Which, like, I got 20. You would think over the last 20 years, we would have had such magnificent developments in research and development that would allow for significantly safer travel at significantly higher speeds. It seems like we just seem stuck.
Look,
in a
I
way
think
that
there's a
makes no
difference
sense.
between like trains have gotten faster
Yes, they
because
have.
trains run on a track. That is a variable you can control. If you are flying in the air, the faster you go, the more inherent risk that flight has. I don't think there's a way technology can make that equation any less safe or any less dangerous. Like there's just certain variables about air travel you cannot change regardless of how technology is going.
Fair enough, but it just seems like there, of course, were huge developments in the first 80 years of air travel. Did we just hit the limit?
From when planes were invented?
Like, yeah, in 80 years, we made massive leaps, and then that's it. We've gone as far as we can go.
Well, maybe we've gone as far as we can.
It seems so strange for us to encounter any technological instance in this world where we've just said, well, I guess we can go no further. That's just so, like, countercultural to every single other element of our lives.
I would guess
for us to throw our hands up and say, I guess this is as good as it can ever
But
get.
again,
It's
I would
really
say
weird.
cars run as fast, like on average. Your basic family sedan is as fast now as it was 65 years ago.
Is it?
Have the bells and whistles on that gotten better? Yes. Have the roads gotten better at which you can drive on? Sure. have the is it more efficient on fuel?
Well,
yes. Is it more sleek? Yes. But the actual point A to point B has not changed that much.
You wouldn't think that the improvement of tires and the improvement of fuel efficiency doesn't speed up the period of time it takes for you to travel. I think it's.
mean,
New York is still the exact same distance as Los Angeles. Like that doesn't change.
And the fuel efficiency might save you time on the drive because you're stopping.
Precisely.
For
That's
gas.
just one little.
What do you think? In the middle of the air, you're just going to hit the gas station in the middle of the air?
No, but that was not the concern when it came to the travel.
But what Garion is saying is you've improved all these other pieces around the actual thing that you're
Around
doing.
cars.
You've improved the tire. You've improved the fuel efficiency. You've improved the roads. You don't have any of that with a plane.
No, but we do have the technology because we did go at semisonic speed.
Sure, and
Question
it was
is, can we
unsafe.
take
It was
that-
unsafe and too expensive.
It was unsafe, but relatively
It's
unsafe.
still unsafe.
But has there been, it seems strange that there hasn't been a significant radical investment instead of trying to worry about going to Mars or going to the moon.
I mean, no one is caring about that unless you're a private billionaire.
Well, I mean, when it comes to going to the moon, NASA is spending outrageous amounts of money.
I mean,
to
NASA's
do it.
spending far less money than they used to.
I would be.
I mean, Trump brought back Space Force. He
well,
reinvigorated
invented-
NASA.
I actually think Space Force is a smart idea.
Listen, most of the technological advances that we've seen over the past 50 years came from NASA trying to figure shit out for outer space.
I'm just underlining this weird sort of contradiction that we encounter in modern life, where there's this one era where we know things can become more efficient and fast, and we've put it off limits, and there seems to be absolutely zero public interest at all in trying to speed up and improve that aspect of life. And that to me is just, I don't even know what to make of it, other than it's weird, it's unlike any other part of our lives, and I just can't quite grasp it.
It's just that
I
it's
think
unsafe.
you're too focused on like just the physical being of a plane, because again, as we started off this entire conversation with, where in the 60s or 70s you would have to get on these planes to execute certain matters of business.
You don't
The
need to do that.
technology has improved in other ways where now you don't have to even go on that flight. That's what's made life easier. It's not about getting to a place faster. It's about not having to go to that place at all.
So I think those are all excellent points, and I completely understand them. It just, seems to be a drive in human nature to always want to go faster and go better and be more efficient with the use of our time. And it's weird that we've decided we're not going to apply this general rule of human nature to this thing. It's just weird, that's all. I have trouble,
I feel
trouble
like
computing.
it's more likely that we have teleportation before we have commercial semisonic jets.
See, I don't think so. I think this fact underscores we're never going to have teleportation. If we're not even willing to tinker around with semisonic speed, which we used for 15 years, we're never going to move towards teleportation.
The liability for a commercial enterprise to do that is so much higher than the military trying to do it. The military is pushing all this shit all the time. Like, they're going faster and faster and faster and faster, but you can't say, hey, American Airlines, go as fast as possible.
No,
let's see the results.
It has to bubble up from the public. The public would have to demand it, and they're not demanding it.
No, because flying...
That's what's weird to me, is that the public doesn't want it.
As Garion pointed, listen, I think that people would appreciate it being faster, but fewer and fewer people are flying because it's so expensive now. Imagine making it even more expensive. And if you can do a meeting, like, I don't need to fly from here to Chicago to do a meeting. I can just hop on my computer, FaceTime them in.
Yeah, no.
Not that big of a deal. So there's no urgency to get anywhere. It's just like a relaxing travel
get
for
it.
people.
No,
what is it worth the hundreds of billions of dollars it would take to shave 20 minutes off a flight when you just don't need to do it because no one cares?
Well, in some cases, it was like a third of the time.
Sure, but again, commercial airlines can't do that if planes are crashing.
No, that's right. Although there weren't that many. There was a couple of significant ones.
Yeah,
one in Paris in
what's
particular.
a good amount of crashes?
I mean, the problem is that every airline has crashes. Like,
Sure.
But
if you made every plane this...
there are certain laws of technology that things become cheaper and more efficient as time goes on.
But usually,
And
again, that is
you would
with
think if
smaller products. Miniaturization helps that. What you're talking about is building bigger planes.
I don't even think they need to be bigger. They can be the same size, but it's just weird. That's all. My only point is that the whole thing sort of drives completely against how everything else in the world goes, and it's worth pointing out and going, hey, isn't this a weird phenomenon? I think it's a weird phenomenon.
We can stick with airports, because I've been in a lot of airports recently.
Okay.
Garion, you don't fly much, do you?
More the last like 10 years of my life than I had prior to that, but not a huge amount, no.
And you don't fly. You don't love flying.
I flew a lot when I was in grad school. I don't care for it, and I haven't flown much. I used to fly a lot back then. I haven't been on an airplane since 2019.
Really?
Since I went to my brother's wedding in Vancouver just before the pandemic, like in the fall of 2019.
That was the last time you flew anywhere?
Yeah, because I didn't fly anywhere during the pandemic, and I haven't flown
you know what?
anywhere recently. I think 2019 was the last time I personally got on an airplane.
Garion?
One last point about the supersonic speed planes and stuff like that. Just as my last flight would have been to Hawaii, 10-hour flight, very long flight. Nowadays, like I'm not saying I love being in an airplane. I don't think that's like a top 5 place for anyone to be. But even flying business class, I had a touchscreen computer 3 inches from my face that gave me access to like 1,000 movies,
Yeah.
20 video games, and like a bunch of cool, like that's the other thing is the actual time spent in a plane is now better than it was 60 years ago.
That's true.
So
in some ways,
I think
that's
people are just more willing to be like, oh, whatever, I can watch 3 movies. That's fine.
So you're
and you have the internet the entire way.
and that's a trade-off
Yeah.
that people are clearly willing to make, that they're willing to spend 11 hours on a plane rather than 4.5 because that 6.5 hours is not worth it to them in terms of the risk factor or in terms of like there's so many things I can do over that 10 hours that I'm not worried about that 6 hours.
But you're not factoring in the cost of all of this. Like the tickets to your supersonic plane are way more
They
expensive.
were more expensive. My thought would have been that these prices should inevitably come down over time. The way everything in price comes down when it comes to
But
technology.
not everything has gone down in
Yeah.
price. There's
all technology becomes
yeah, but
cheaper.
it's not a technology; it's a service.
It is a service, but it's also a service that
And
is
it's also-
bound up in a particular form of technology.
True, but it's still you're paying for the service and convenience of riding on an airplane rather than taking a boat or a train,
Of course.
or driving in a car. Like airline prices have gone way up anyway without this. So imagine what those tickets would cost today.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's all about how you spend your research and development money and the way you allocate it. And I don't know how much the airlines are spending on that kind of stuff. I'm completely ignorant of that fact.
So in terms
Apologies for getting us back on this. Yeah.
No,
That's
but
all right.
it's a good point. It's a very good point to make.
in terms of airports, and I'll throw sidewalks into this too to try to make it a little bit comparable to things that, I mean, I doubt you do much walking around where you live.
I do some walking around.
I notice it more when I was actually in Toronto and in San Francisco rather than here because I don't really walk around a ton here because you need to drive everywhere. But walking through airports, people who randomly fucking stop in airports, like what? Like it's mind-boggling.
Yeah, it's really weird.
I don't understand how that's a thing that goes
I
through
assume they're
someone's
stopping
mind.
to look at their gate.
Sure, get out of the fucking way.
That's a fair point.
Like everyone's like, there's like 2 paths people are walking down. You just stop
Yeah, that's bad.
out of nowhere.
Well, there's a lot of people who are in their own little worlds.
True, but well, that's the whole thing with the
I was gonna say, that's
sidewalk.
not really an airport thing. I think it's just a life thing.
Yeah, but it's happening in airport. It happens more in airports now than it used to. The thing I noticed here in middle of summer, walking down the street, both in San Fran and in Toronto, just people on FaceTime, not walking where they're going. Like who was just video FaceTiming, walking down the sidewalk in the middle of like I could see if you were by yourself,
Right to jail. Sorry,
like
right to jail.
by
That's the only
yourself,
punishment.
you know that there's no one around.
That's different.
But when you're walking through a very clearly crowded area, not walking where you're going, like how can you even hear the person?
You must have your earphones in, right?
But how can they hear you then if everyone's around?
That is a good point. But I guess your microphone's
Yeah.
close enough.
Yeah, I
that
guess so.
Bumps
But
out
it just
a lot.
seems
It's-
craziness.
It is crazy.
I just find this kind of stuff crazy anyway. Like, I'm someone who doesn't even like talking on the phone in a public setting, period.
Oh, it's the worst.
People who have phone calls on the bus, like even if you're not doing a video chat, like even if I can't hear the other side of it, I don't want to hear your half of the conversation.
It happened to me the other day. I was at the grocery store in line, and my phone rings, and like I answered it just to say, "I'm sorry, I can't talk right now. I'm out at the grocery store or whatever." Like I couldn't imagine being that guy to stand there and just have a chat, unless it's like life or death or real serious. It can wait 6 minutes.
Jeff called me when I was in the airport lounge. I was like, I don't want to go to the quiet room to go take this call. Can I just call you back when I'm off the plane?
Exactly.
He was like, fine. But there was a guy who didn't go to the quiet room, who was just having a very loud conversation in the middle of the lounge.
I would go complain.
Everyone, who are you going to complain to?
Whoever's working at the lounge.
They're not going to fucking do
Hey,
anything.
this person.
What are they going to do? Go escort him
They
out?
go over and say,
Yeah,
excuse
calm
me,
down,
sir.
Karen.
No. There are quiet rooms for that reason. Please.
They're not
Your
security guards.
They can
It's
walk
also
up-
not illegal to be on your phone. It's just a common courtesy to not be.
Oh, it may not. It actually may very well be in the rules that you agree to at the lounge that you're not going to have loud conversations outside of the quiet room.
But that's also
so that
a
person's
case
breaking
of
the rules.
what are you going to do about it?
99% of people, if in that circumstance, if the employee on call walks over and says, "Excuse me, sir, would you mind taking that call to the quiet room?" would get up and go to the quiet room. There's one or two people who would be recalcitrant and make a scene, but 99% of the time, people would say, "Yeah, okay, sure." Even if they're snippy, they'll get up and they'll do it.
Who are you getting to do this, though?
People who are staffing the lounge.
You mean the guy that works at the front?
Whoever.
He needs to be. Well, that's
I
it.
You know, whoever's
You're going to take him away from the
Well,
desk?
they
He's not
have
leaving the desk.
security there too.
No, they
because
don't.
They have to have security.
They don't have security.
Everyone
When was
has security.
When was the last time you were in an airport lounge?
It's been since the one time I was snowed in Toronto and got a lounge pass so I could hang out there. So
You see a lot of security walking around?
I don't remember.
No, you didn't.
I don't remember. I was just getting mine while I was there.
Well,
believe me.
I actually saw a guy get kicked out of the lounge for taking too much stuff.
I took so
He was
much
like
stuff.
packing his bags with food. to
Okay,
go-
well, I was
Oh,
not
man.
doing
Tim,
that.
what did
I
you
was not.
take?
I was not doing that. No, I didn't take anything with me. I just took full advantage of the stuff while I was there.
we also saw a guy when we were at that breakfast I told you about, the hotel when we were staying. We walked down, there was a buffet breakfast. A guy brought Tupperware down with him.
Yeah, that's bad
And
form.
they like, you can't.
Yeah,
take
you can't
this.
do that. You can eat everything you'd like while you are there. You can't take anything with you. That's I think that's just classic, ethical behavior.
That sounds like you.
No, I would never, ever pile a bunch of scrambled eggs into Tupperware to take home with me. I would take as much as I wanted while I was there, but like
Because he only likes
eggs are
the
also
fresh
bad at a
scrambled
breakfast
eggs. You have to
buffet.
remember that.
Eggs
He
are
only
ba-
eats fresh food.
also like eggs are just a minus EV play at a breakfast buffet. The eggs are cheap compared to other stuff that's there.
Well, most of the stuff you find at a breakfast buffet is not going to be of the highest quality.
No, but you go for the stuff, not the highest quality, but you go for the highest price point items to beat the house.
I don't need to beat the house.
Okay, well, I guess I'm just more of a competitive person
try
than
to
you are.
You're a
Eat a
competitive
buffet.
person?
We
Why?
talked
To
about
get
that
heart
so many
disease
times.
first?
No, just like if I'm going to eat there and I've paid the additional cost, essentially it's built into my cost of my
See, this
hotel
is the
room.
problem that I have with people around here. When I go, I listened to a guy complain about it on the golf course. This is an older guy that he went out Garion to one of the newer restaurants that's around. And he was complaining about all the portion sizes that he didn't have like an all-you-can-eat meal. And it was really expensive. Like, well, of course it's really expensive. You went to a really nice restaurant that was made of high-quality food. You don't need to have.
See, now this
Three
goes back to like CUST Corner 40, where I contended that all local restaurants
Should have an
should
all-you-can-eat
have to have
element.
some aspect of an all-you-can-eat buffet.
But it's just a weird, like, it's usually older people that can complain about it, or very big people who complain about it. Most normal people just go out and have a meal. You don't need to be so stuffed when you pay for a meal that you can't walk out of it.
That's
Chances
correct.
are you've probably eaten too much.
That's correct. But I, just to give the guy a little bit of a break, you can understand why somebody
I
who
asked
spent
him,
a large amount of
I
money.
asked him if he was full. He said yes.
Okay, so that's-
But he wanted more.
Okay, well that's different. If you leave hungry, I can understand that being a problem. Completely. You should never leave
Yeah, I mean,
somewhere
look,
hungry.
I could see ordering something for a lot of money, having it come and be like, oh, I thought there would be more.
Yeah, like there's like
now again,
4 of
I
these, and like,
unlike Tim have the self-awareness to admit I don't frequent fancy restaurants all that often, so I'm not used to that sort of
yeah.
money per portion size conundrum. But in general, that's a terrible idea for every place to have a buffet.
No, it's
Like,
not. It doesn't have to be the nicest stuff on the buffet. It could just be a salad bar. That can.
I know
fit
you don't
the-
want the nicest stuff.
It doesn't have to be.
If anything, you want the opposite of the nicest stuff.
Yeah, no, it doesn't have. It doesn't have to be nice stuff. It can just be an all.
Could you imagine walking into a Michelin-star restaurant
buffet.
and they're like, "Oh, by the way, we've got a pizza bar in the back. Legally, we have to."
Yeah, or like I mentioned this to you guys once before. Like a Jello and pudding dessert buffet would be amazing.
Just move that to the fucking
Just
be
have
super
every
cheap.
meal at a
It'd be
Chinese
super cheap.
buffet. That's clearly what you want.
Yes, I
just
do. That would be so. It would be cheap to run. People would want it. You'd guarantee that people never left hungry.
If I
win.
walked into like a nice restaurant, they had a fucking buffet, and it wasn't a buffet like style, I'd be like, what the fuck are we doing here? Like, what is this shit?
If it was required to have a buffet in every single
Yeah,
restaurant,
and you think that would make money? If buffets can barely get by as it is right now, requiring everyone to have a buffet, you think would be a profitable endeavor?
a buffet but they get to choose what's in that buffet. Like they can
If
run the
buffets
buffet.
made a lot of money, they'd have fucking buffets to begin with.
But you can
Why do
run-
you think casinos have buffets? Because
they
they want to get you into the casino to gamble your
but
money.
not just that. Really, really nice hotels have buffets.
to get you to stay at the really nice hotel.
A lot of people like.
Tim, this is also like the worst time
go.
imaginable in the 21st century to have like a buffet infrastructure. People are more germophobic now than they've been in the entirety of the
I'm
world.
germophobic, but I love buffets because I'm willing to prioritize my ability to get my bang for my buck.
I'm more hungry than
over
I am
the germ.
afraid of
Yes,
germ-
if these are competing goods, my germophobia and my hunger. And in this instance, I'm going to side with my hunger.
So how come to you it's all about getting max value, but all these services that you want, you don't give a shit if they lose money or not? Why shouldn't they think like you?
There is the opportunity for them to. They're also making an outrageously good amount of money.
So
They're already making
You know
lots
what?
of money.
You know,
No one's passing the
When
hat
you put
around.
it that way, the fact that all of Tim's takes are like for the 1%, or for the 99%, maybe I have to start siding with Tim more.
Thank you.
Secret socialist Tim.
No, but I'm a man for the people.
well, I mean, you're the People's Republic of Tim?
No, but I stand for the people. I have small d democratic tendencies where I like the people, and I don't feel there's a need to swan around in an elitist way. I like to stoop down and be amongst the people.
So, but if you're a corporation, why, if your only goal is to make money, why would you want to make less
Well,
money?
I also do think that you can make quite a bit of money off all these things too.
But you can't. Like, basically everything that you've proposed is a losing endeavor for all these places.
You can, and you have done a good job describe how they can become losing adventures. But I'm not.
Well, they're all losing
I'm not
endeavors
so-
to begin with.
I'm not as glum
unless
as
you
you.
charge in a. Well, I actually run a business.
I think
I understand how dollars and cents work.
I think you
you
can-
seem to have no concept of that.
I think you can play around with things in a particular way where you can make a tidy little profit. But what's most important to me is that people have satisfying experiences.
Even if it's going to cost someone or a company all their money.
It's not. Well, it is not going to cost a company all their money to
But
have
okay.
a Jello buffet at a restaurant.
Well, maybe I'm a silent investor in this restaurant. Now their profit margin's not as high. Now I'm losing my
How
money.
is their profit margin not as high?
What's
Do
that?
you know how much it costs to make a pot of Jello? Do you have any idea what it costs?
99 cents or something like
Exactly. You charge me $4 for an
that?
all-you-can-eat
Then
Jello
why don't
buffet.
places have Jello buffets?
I
because
don't
hey, no
know.
one fucking wants a Jello buffet because they're not 90 years old.
I want
or
it.
5 years old.
I want it.
Gary, if there was a Jello buffet at a restaurant you went to, you'd be like, man, let me get some Jello.
100% you're going, Gary.
Literally the only place in the world that has Jello buffets are again Chinese food
Well, no,
buffets
Ponderosa
that you
have
pet,
it.
that you
That in
spend
business?
$20 on. And look, I love a good Chinese food buffet. I'm not above it. But Tim, instead of wanting to turn everything into one, just go to a Chinese food buffet.
But you're not always in the mood for Chinese food.
Sounds like you're always in the mood for Jello.
Yeah, it just sounds like you're always in a mood for buffets.
Well, there is always room for Jello.
There is always room for Jello, and buffets are amazing. And like, I'm not the only one.
When was the last time you were at a buffet?
I was at a breakfast buffet at a hotel back in the spring.
Okay, so you've been to 1 in 3 years.
I've been to several.
Sounds like they're
no
good
no
business.
I have at most hotels I stay at. I go to hotels that have breakfast buffets.
Can I say that a buffet is maybe I said earlier that a single person grocery store might be the saddest place in the world. A buffet is actually the saddest place in the world.
You can go to really nice buffets, like brunch buffets at like nice hotels, which I
Sure.
used to do in the past.
I agree, but
and you get excellent food there.
You do, but like I, for example, when I was staying with my wife in the Calgary Stampede, we went up to a restaurant for its breakfast buffet. Now it was $80 per
The
person.
hotel you stayed at had a fantastic brunch buffet in Banff. A fantastic one. I used to go
I
up
was
for it.
also paying fucking $2,000 a night to stay there.
Fair enough. But I'm just saying, well, the buffet's not nearly that expensive, and it's a fantastic
No,
buffet.
but that's a part of paying that much money is that you get to have a buffet when
yeah,
you
but
want
people would drive up for just that buffet. Literally, we did that.
to. How much was it though?
Like $75 a head.
Okay, so you drove an hour and a half to pay $75.
But you're also
a head.
then in the mountains. You spend the day in the mountains.
Okay,
Like,
but
it's not
like,
the only thing you're doing there.
What if it was you? You're Tim. You wake up at 8 o'clock in the morning. You're feeling like a breakfast buffet. Are you going to drive anywhere around you to pay $75 for a breakfast buffet? No. I will answer that for you.
95% of the time, the answer is no.
I mean, you've been to one breakfast buffet in 3 years. So
No,
the
no,
answer
I've
is
been to
no.
several.
You could go to the one at the Westin downtown. It's really nice.
Yes, I could. But
And you could pay $70 to go have that.
I'm not opposed to that.
It seems like you are because you don't
I just
do
haven't
it.
done it because you got to find parking and you got to get up and you got to get.
You can pay. You can actually pay for valet parking there.
Yeah, you could, but then I still got to get down there and there's traffic and like if it was
Take an
next,
Uber.
I
don't
thought
know
you
how to
liked
do that.
driving. I thought
Yeah, I thought
that
driving was
like,
great.
a fun little thing.
Driving is fine. I don't like traffic.
There's no traffic in this city.
You'd be well, not
Yeah,
compared to large.
I would be surprised.
compared-
I've lived in places with fucking traffic.
as a father.
There is no traffic here.
no, that's true. The traffic's not as bad as another.
It's not as bad. There is no traffic.
No, well, there
Like
can
the fact that you might have to stop at a stoplight is what you're
the
considering
102.
traffic. Oh yeah, that gets so bad you might have to wait 3 minutes.
Nah, you can back up a while.
Oh yes, yeah. Your experience with traffic seems very good.
No. I mean, obviously the traffic was worse in Calgary when I lived there. A lot worse.
Yeah, there's no traffic here.
Not comparably, no. Anyway, I don't know where we got off top, but breakfast buffets are. I don't know. Like, I'm not the only person. There are other people. You have guests on your show who are pro buffet. I'm not like some weirdo out here with the only
the
buffet.
argument isn't pro buffet, but you thinking that every restaurant should have a buffet is fucking ludicrous.
It'd be so awesome if
No, it
every
wouldn't.
place had a buffet, and they could choose what it is that's in their buffet. You want to just have pudding and Jello and like bits and bites and
Why
stuff?
do you
I'm
think
into
people
it.
want pudding and Jello? Like that's old folks, like old.
I like it.
Hospital food and old folks home.
I like it.
This
That's
this
great.
is the thing. Like
I like it.
I have been known. Like I often drive to Pittsburgh. My sister was going to university there for a while.
Why didn't you
I
take
really
a
like
flight
the
that
ballpark there.
takes 13 minutes?
Should have, you know. But the halfway point is basically Erie, Pennsylvania, which is not the greatest place in the world, mind you. But I'll stop at I've been known to stop at the Golden Corral while I'm in Erie, Pennsylvania. The saddest place in the entire world. I would say the clientele in that Golden Corral is probably averaging about 325 pounds. And if they're not that heavy, they are 85 years old. Those are the only people at buffets. Like, it's just not what you want your fancy restaurant to be, Tim.
Well, I agree with that. I'm not saying they should just be buffets. They can have a little tiny buffet off to the side, a little buffet room where you can get some stuff.
Okay, so you have a buffet room. And that's, like you said, you're not really generating, it's free to use there if there's a buffet there, right? Mm-hmm. Or you could put a table in there and charge people like $200 a head.
Well, this is why it needs to be instituted through legislation. So
So
that's
communist Tim
there. No, it's
wants
just,
to institute buffets at all
I
restaurants.
think the public would like it.
The public wants it at every restaurant.
I think
the
the
public
public
doesn't like it as a stand. You know how many fucking buffets have closed past 3 years?
I mean,
no one wants buffets.
That has nothing to do with the buffets, though. It has to do with some health regulations. That they just
Yeah,
didn't
which
restart.
are always a problem at buffets.
They're just buffets are good. And
Then
I like
go to them. You go to one every 3 years, and you're Mr. Buffet.
I didn't say I was Mr. Buffet, but like when I went to Vegas a couple of times, I didn't go out to
That's
dinner.
the buffet
single
capital
time.
of the world.
I went to buffets for
It's
all
to
my
keep
meals.
you in the fucking casino so you gamble your money.
But I wasn't going to do that just to gamble. It was because I literally enjoyed
The
fare.
other people, the buffets are there to convince the other people to stay on the grounds so they gamble their money at that casino. Paul.
So let me get this right. So Tim doesn't want big packages of food because he doesn't want to waste food, but in a economy where its margins are so tight for restaurant owners these days, buffets create a whole bunch of food waste. But if it's somebody else's problem, the self-proclaimed man of the people, if it's someone else's problem, well, I want it, that's your problem. That's how I'm reading into this.
Well, I think that's a somewhat uncharitable reading of what I'm saying. Like,
I don't think it is.
it's up to the restaurateur how he or she wants to arrange their buffet, and they can do it in a way that they can make money. I don't care if you charge an outrageous amount of money for that.
You know what?
do you
So if I owned a restaurant, my buffet would be I'd put all the items at the buffet on a menu, and then you would have to talk to a sort of like a in-between member
Then I
of
would
the staff.
I would call
and
consumer
tell
affairs
them what
on
you
you.
wanted from the buffet, and they would go get it for you.
I would report you to the authorities. Say you're breaking the rules. This is not what a buffet
Do you think
is.
if buffets made money, then people would do them?
Yes, but I think they do make money.
Do you really? All the ones out of business now?
Well, there weren't. I think there's a stigma to buffets in part that people don't think that they make.
But it's not
that
like
they don't have
if
excellent
buffets
food.
were so popular. Like there's a fast food restaurant every 2 steps. But buffets are super popular. It's not like you saw a bunch around to begin with and they all went out of business.
Well, buffets are different than fast food. You can get that and go. Like a buffet, you got to commit your time to being there. You got to try to eat your value in food, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's a slightly
You don't
different
have
thing.
to do that.
Well, you don't have to, but like you should.
Maybe some people aren't gluttons. That's why they don't want to go.
Well, I don't think you have to be. I mean,
Well, if you have to eat enough to get your value on the $85 of breakfast.
oh,
food,
you can't beat it. If it's $85, you cannot beat the house. You can try to break even, maybe, but even that's tough.
what-
If they have crab legs.
Well, if they have crab legs, it's not hard to beat the house. Like you don't even have to eat that much at a $75 buffet with king crab legs in order to beat the house. Like just take the steam train, you're good.
And
So I think I wanted to talk about something quickly when we're talking about airports. I don't think we've talked about this before, but airports sort of like a Vegas casino, sort of like independent to time. They don't really exist on the normal plane or the normal 24-hour spectrum. Is it can you drink at any time in an airport?
yes,
If
Is
it's
it
open.
socially okay to drink at any time of the day in an airport? Because I think it is.
I would agree with you. I don't like drinking at airports though.
It's too expensive.
I kind of do.
The costs I don't care about.
No, fancy man.
I don't. Of course, everyone knows this about me, but I just don't like I don't like drinking on planes.
I never understood. I mean, people, I guess, because you don't take as many drinks to get inebriated on a plane. I guess
Maybe it is,
because
but
of the elevation.
if I have like a draft and then walk onto a plane, I just feel like shit.
Yeah, I agree, but at the same
Yeah.
time, if it's open at an airport, you're free to consume whatever's available.
I am actually surprised there are more people like with the free booze that are in airport lounges. You don't see a lot of people just like standing next to the tap, constantly refilling.
Well, because
Oh,
Don't you
you're
feel
not
like if
allowed
you're
on
in
the
an
plane.
airport lounge, you're probably like traveling for business? I mean, I think that's one of the reasons that
That's
I
true.
am so affable to drinking at an airport is I rarely travel for business. If I'm on a plane, I'm going on vacation.
That's true, and you will not be allowed on the plane, and everyone knows that if you're too inebriated.
This is true. I remember maybe I ruined it for myself. It's like drinking Kahlua. First time I ever got drunk, I drank Kahlua and just threw up everywhere. Now I can't smell coconut in a drink.
Like that
Or I
guy,
just, like,
remember that guy who was funneling the creme liqueur at the Buffalo Bills game?
I do remember the guy who was funneling the Bailey's Irish cream.
It seems like a bad idea to get drunk on that or Kahlua.
Well, there we are. Either way, so I can't drink Kahlua anymore, or even like coconut smelling drink. If I smell the coconut like in rum, like I'm off of it. Like it just makes me feel sick.
Understandable.
The first time I was of legal age to drink and took an airplane to go, I was visiting my friends in Toronto. I got wasted on those like little bottles of
Yeah.
like Captain Morgan on the way up. I was only there for 2 days. I got off the plane. I was so fucking drunk. I like wasted my entire trip.
Yeah, that sounds awful.
Yeah. And then I just never did it after. So maybe if I didn't have that experience, I'd be more open to it. But just, yeah, like even like having a glass of wine, like one maybe, and you do feel a little bit like you can start feeling it
you
right
do.
away. Some people do it because they have anxiety about flying. I
get that.
understand that. I don't, so I don't have a reason to do it. And I feel like it affects my time when I get off the plane potentially. And I'm taking the trip for the stuff I'm doing off the plane.
Yes.
Not the stuff that I'm doing on the plane.
Or some people just are uncomfortable not having a drink after so many hours in a row.
Alcoholics.
Well, you don't have to be an alcoholic.
I mean, but by that description, I think that's what you're talking about.
Not quite. Like I'm saying, you're used to having a drink, twice a day or something. I wouldn't consider that to be. Maybe it is. Okay.
If you have to have a drink so badly that like if you're like, hey, I got to meet my quota for today, doesn't matter where I am, but I
Okay.
got to get these 2 beers down. It's probably a bit of a problem.
Fair enough.
I don't know. I had I don't know if they do this in other airports. I'm sure they do, but at Toronto International, they have this like little mini video poker you can play as you're just like sitting at the bar, kind of killing
Sounds
time.
fun.
And if you win enough hands, like you accumulate points, and then you can trade the points in to get like the snacks that you get on the plane.
That is a capital idea.
So I just remember we were going to Scotland, and I, got there way too early. I think my mother-in-law decided we needed like 6 hours before takeoff to make sure we got through customs and everything.
Sounds like my wife.
So we sat there for so long. I must have had like 6 beers, played video poker for 5 hours, and won like 19 packets of gummy worms or whatever. It was a great time.
I was going to say, sounds like that was time well spent.
Loved it. It's fantastic.
It's like, I don't have the money for it, but I've always thought like high limit slots would be the most fun thing to play in Vegas. I really do.
That would be the most.
I think that would
fun
be
thing
so
to play
exhilarating to have like a super high limit slot machine to play. That'd be like a lot.
How did we
of
get
fun.
from I'm playing free video poker for gummy worms to high limit slots would be the best thing?
I just think it would be a lot of fun if I don't have the money for it. But if I had that kind of money where you could bet like $5,000 a pull or something, like that would be
That is like that is
God.
essentially the lowest form of
that
gambling.
would be so much fun.
What if they just sold you scratch tickets that cost $10,000 a piece?
That would be exhilarating. You'd want that vowel so badly to make that crossword puzzle work. You kidding me?
Gotta
Think what
get
the
those
payouts would,
cherries.
think what the payouts would be on those things.
One thing I haven't, and maybe someone can explain, maybe you guys know, maybe an American can explain it better to me. Why are there still pennies in America?
Oh my god, it's so stupid.
I don't get it. And like $1 bills, I don't quite understand either. It's not that I,
That's a different issue, though.
yeah, but I don't quite have like a, is it for strippers or drugs?
No, well, just that's the reason that you have pennies or don't have pennies is different than why you have a dollar bill or a dollar coin.
No, sure, but like it just, like I'll get change from somewhere if I have to pay in cash in America, and I get like a whole bunch of $1 bills. I get pennies. Like, what is this shit?
Yeah, I mean,
Did the rest of the world like where do pennies still exist? Is it just America?
I
don't
think so.
know
there
enough.
There can't be many more places.
I mean, part of the reason I remember in 2013, I was opposed to getting rid of pennies. And the reason was just I didn't want to concede the inflationary factor. Because once you get rid of them, they never come back. You're sort of conceding permanent inflation.
Are you saying that our current global inflation crisis is because most countries got rid of pennies?
No. But when you're getting rid of the penny, what you're saying is that inflation is guaranteed and permanent. And it's not always, there are indeed and sometimes deflationary moments. And if you've gotten rid of the penny, you're in some trouble, perhaps. If we hit a deflationary moment, you don't have a mechanism for people to actually, anyway. So, I mean, it had all to do with sort of a logical issue I had with it, not with the need for having pennies in your pocket. Like, I couldn't care less. I don't feel any loss of having pennies.
No, but imagine you start getting pennies again. And you're
would-
like,
yeah, it would be it would be mostly weird. It's pennies are mostly wasted money, wasted in the sense that it costs more to produce a penny than the penny is worth,
and then you can't actually, things
how many
cost so much money that you can't spend them anywhere?
or just like when it comes to that, like how many people who had pennies or have pennies were just in a drawer somewhere or like in an old bank and they never get cashed in and they get thrown out.
It's
or they don't
wasted
get
space.
used. Wasted
That's what I'm
space,
saying.
wasted money. So I totally get
That's
the
what I
logic
find
of
about
it.
$1
I just didn't
bills
like
as well.
the idea of conceding the inflation. I think the $1 and $2 coins are a great idea.
I mean, I don't love $1 and $2 coins. It seemed to me, and depending on where I was, maybe it was just my experience of being there, that digital transactions were far less common in America.
They are.
Than they were everywhere else I've been in the world.
They are. Like, if you describe to our American friends what debit is, it doesn't even
Well, they
work
have
the same.
debit.
But not quite the same way we do. Their debit isn't quite the same
It is
type of
funny
thing.
to have an American like pay a bill at a restaurant in Canada.
Yes.
Like they half the time they don't know what those machines that come out to the
Yeah,
table
that's
are.
that's not an American thing.
Like there was a lot of, they would still, like there are very few places that I've been
Tap.
in. Tap is one thing, but like just even using Apple Pay to pay for everything. It's like boom, boom, boom. Went to France, Apple Pay. Went to Monaco, Apple Pay.
Well, I
Go
think
across Canada, Apple Pay. Now, some of the places in like New York and San Francisco had it, but other places that I've been, like, and even at higher end places, they will come out with like the bill and the thing, and like, oh, I need to take your card back here. You need to sign for it. Like, there's none of that shit. Like that just seems like
No.
a way. Like, is it?
part of the logic is that there are just simply, with a country of 330 million people, there are so many people who
Do you
are
think
living.
this is a problem in China?
I don't know.
I think
Who
you
are-
just have a watch that
who,
pays for
who are
everything.
living a more cash-based existence.
In China. I think
No, I don't know.
everything's digital.
I don't know which one. I'm talking the United States. I think the way that a good number of people in a 330 million population in the United States with such disparities in income, there are a significant number of people who live cash-based existences. And so you don't want to prohibit those people from being able to spend and use legal tender. And I just think it's not the same type of problem in France, or United States, or Great Britain. Like there's actually a demographic reason as to why cash, based on the types of jobs people have, their immigration status perhaps, that cash is their lifeline. And if you remove their capacity to spend cash, you really do great violence to their way of life.
Okay, I can understand that, but I'm surprised that the government wouldn't want that. Like, if vaccines are a way to put nanobots in your arm to track you, why wouldn't they just have digital currency, which would also track you?
Yeah, well, and
And not exclusive digital. Like, that's the thing. It's not like these places aren't taking cash. It just seems to be like, if you're going to have the credit card machine anyway, and you're going to have this technology anyway. It's not like they're saying you can't pay in cash. It's not an exclusive digital transaction. That their method of digital transaction seems to be like 15 years behind.
It does, and I wonder if that's got to do with IP. Like, I don't know, is Moneris a Canadian company?
I doubt it.
Like,
Is
I don't know.
anything a Canadian company?
Well, sometimes things are, right? Or that there are certain IP owned by other companies that aren't using it in the United States. That's why it's not happening. Or
It would just seem strange that it happens.
it is strange. It is strange. Like, you really do feel like, in a lot of ways, for as advanced the United States is in all these ways, that the way you conduct commerce feels like you're living in 2006.
Yeah.
It's weird, man. And it's hard to explain. But it just, that sort of going, actually do need cash when you go to the United States in a lot of ways.
See, I never felt like
in the same way that you don't traveling elsewhere.
Like, it's funny because like I didn't feel like I needed cash to be there. That's not what I'm saying. It's just the convenience of paying digitally just took a lot more time than it would anywhere else. And then I went to Mexico directly after, just like everywhere else.
Yeah, it's strange.
It's really
I'm
strange.
sure there are institutional reasons for it, but
Yeah, maybe it's a red tape kind of thing.
I'm sure that it has got to be something like that. It's got to do with the property rights to
But when someone brings out
technology
like a Chase credit card machine in the United States, it's no different than bringing out a Chase credit card machine in Canada.
But maybe those machines are set up in such a way that you can only take a Chase credit card with it.
that doesn't seem
Maybe
right.
I can't use my MasterCard on that machine. It's like Costco style, where you can only use a particular type
Yeah,
of
but
card.
that's an exclusive lease. That wouldn't go.
I don't know. Would it surprise you in the United States if things were so individualized that you can only use particular machines for particular cards because the fees are so much higher if you use...
Well, I mean, but that's usually like places that don't take American Express do take American Express. They
they
just don't want
won't
to pay the
because
fees
of the cost, yeah.
associated with it. But
I don't know.
that's
but
different.
There's always an explanation for why these things are the case. It's just it's not self-evident.
Yeah, I just found it really strange.
Yeah.
And not something that I thought I would experience.
No, it is weird. Anytime I go to the States and I just have a pocket full of change, like, this is weird. I mean, I remember, I remember this life, but like I thought I'd left it behind.
I just left Virginia 2 months ago, and I left, I think, a stack of like 35 pennies on my sister's bedside table. Or just like, I don't want this. Take it. Like, not in a good way, but just, I don't want these pennies. This is a relic of a bygone era.
It's funny because I brought a bunch of cash with me to Vegas because obviously, going to bring cash to Vegas. When I came back, like I checked like my wallet. I was like, oh yeah, I basically have as much cash as I came back with. I was like, these are all fucking
$1 bills.
And it's bad, like when you're trying, like especially when you have the $1 bills and you shove them in with the rest of your money, and then you go to like sit down at a table and start. It's like you really need to.
Yeah, no, it's
like,
true.
look, am I paying with a 1 or 100 here? I know they look slightly different. They don't look different enough.
No, they don't. They don't look different enough. They're all green. Nah, it's bad days. They should get rid of the $1 bill. There really isn't a need for it.
Well, I know that when I lived in Jersey,
I know what. Yeah,
they had the Sacagawea dollars
Oh, okay.
that were there. People fucking hated $1 coins.
People
I
hated
paid-
$1 coins when they came
I
in here.
paid at a restaurant because I went to the Jersey Transit to get into Manhattan, and when I put in my bill, it spit out a whole bunch of $1 coins. So I had like $16 in $1 coins. I remember I went with Sussman to a meatball place, and it was like $13 or something like that. So I had $16. I was like, oh, here we go. And he was like, couldn't have been more offended that you can't pay with change. It's like, they're $1 coins. So what you're telling me is if I left 16 $1 bills, that would be fine. I can't leave 16 $1 coins? He's
Yeah.
like, no, you can't do that.
But I bet you-
I feel like that's why they never caught on,
If
because
you go
there's
back
that mentality.
If you go back to the archives in 1987 or 1996 when we introduced $1 and $2 coins, I guarantee you the exact same opinions were expressed by people. And they just had,
These
had to put up with
SOPs
it.
are
They just had to put up with
expressed
it. Because it wasn't going
whenever
back.
the government institutes anything. Like, you go back and you listen to people talk about having to wear seatbelts in cars.
I mean, there is going to
And it's
always,
insanity.
The question is just, is the government willing to just tolerate that type of momentary pushback or not?
Well, I just don't know if it's... I mean, getting rid of pennies is super easy at this point because you round up, you round down, whatever it is. It all kind of comes out in the wash. You probably pay a little bit more.
You almost certainly do because you round up 3, 4, 5 and you round down 1, 2.
Yeah. But either way, it's negligible in a lot of ways. When it comes to, like... Because if it's 10 cents, then you pay with 10 cents, like whatever it is. But if most people are
Is
doing...
that a 1 liter Coke?
It is.
It's a liter of cola?
The liter of Diet
You got a
Coke.
large fucking Farva over there, pal?
There was a deal on at the store.
What was the deal?
It was 2 for $5.
2 for $5. So you bought 2. Do you need to?
No, I don't need to, but like,
But if there was a deal,
Wait, isn't
3
a
for
2
$8 on...
liter of Coke less than $5?
Yeah, but I want one for the golf course, and I want one to sip here. And
So if
bottles are far more easy to drink on the course than like a can.
So if one pork chop was $5, but 3 were $7, you're still telling me you would buy the one, huh?
That's a little different because I am committed to drinking
not.
Diet Coke every single day.
When was the last time if you bought a pork chop, that you sat down and had one pork chop?
I'll have 1.5. There's 3 in a package.
Well, you can't.
I'll cook all 3.
So wait,
Then
I'll
there
eat
you
one.
go.
I'll
That
eat
sounds
one-
like a great problem.
I'll eat 1.5, but then I have another pork chop and a half that I feel compelled to have to either eat tomorrow or later on that night or whatever. And I wanted the pork chop then.
Just freeze them.
I don't have an industrial meat freezer like you all seem to think you need to have all this stuff.
Dude, I
frozen.
live in a 400 square foot condo. What are you talking about?
Well, I'd love to see how jam packed and disorganized your freezer must be. Then apparently,
It's not that. I order takeout a lot, to be perfectly
okay,
frank.
well, fair enough. But like the way you guys are talking, it sounds like I should have one of those industrial freezers to shove everything in.
I have one of those.
Well, that's fine if you have one of those. Great.
They're not very expensive.
I don't want one. I don't need one. I'm not interested in one. I don't want to freeze a bunch of
Okay,
stuff.
so you're
I'm
not.
sorry you can't fit
Plus,
all
my cake
pork
is
chop
taking
in your
up a lot of
freezer
space in my
because there's
freezer. Oh, yeah,
6
I forgot about
boxes
your
of
cake.
ice
That's
cream
always in the freezer.
sandwiches.
Yeah, I have enough stuff. I have to have my
How did
pizzas
that-
on hand, stuff like that.
The last time you bought a half cake, how did that turn out for you? Did that end up as food waste?
It did.
So you replaced it with another cake you're not going to eat.
I might eat
So
it.
how come you can have pork chops or different type of food that you
It's
can't
not
have
the
that you
same
can't
thing.
have in single serving because you're going to eat it, but you have an entire fucking half cake
It's not-
in your freezer, but you won't eat that.
It's not the same thing.
How is it
at
not
all.
the same thing?
Because when it comes to the pork chops, you're committing to eating those same things over and over. Again.
Over and over, it sounds like 2 meals to you.
Or even sometimes 3, and I just don't want to eat it more than I want it because I have a hankering for pork chops. And then
How often do you want a piece of cake?
not that often, but it's really there for guests as well, right? If I'm entertaining.
Forgot it's a guest cake. My apologies.
Yeah, like I'm not just buying half cakes for myself to eat.
All right. Do you have anything else? Because that's it for me.
I mean, that's what I have for the people.
And we'll be doing this once a week during football season.
Yes. And then at Christmas time, I don't know what we're going to talk about, Gary, at Christmas time. We have plumbed
I'll
that.
find
We've
something.
plumbed that
We
well
always
so
do.
many times. I don't know what we're going to come up with, but I'm sure we
Well,
will.
I'm sure there will be something.
I have a lot of airport stuff. I think I just wrote a bunch of stuff down when I was in an airport.
Well, airports can be a very frustrating, weird, semi place to be.
You
'cause
want
it's
to
like-
talk about plus EV? If there's ever a place to spend a little bit more money if you have it, it's at an airport.
I can
Because
see
the
that.
convenience factor goes through the roof. Even if you get like a zone up, also. Airport zones. If you line up in a zone that you're not in, so let's say they're calling zone 3.
Okay.
'Cause this happened to me. I was in zone 2, and people were in front of me, and they were not a part of zone 2. They were a part of zone 3. If someone checks your ticket or you're standing in the wrong zone, it would be worth it, I think, from an efficiency standpoint from the airlines. It's hard to find people to do this. So you need like a roving monitor, multiple people. But you wouldn't have to do it for long. That you spend like 3 months doing this. If someone lines up in the wrong line, it should be in the fine print. You get to board last. And then people would stop doing it.
I'm not opposed to that. Board when you're supposed to board.
People don't do because the finite amount
Of overhead space.
of overhead space is a real problem because it costs so much money
Yeah.
to check a bag at this point. Where if you can
They
just-
want to get on as quickly as possible so that they know that there is space available for
Exactly.
their gobs of things that they're bringing on the
now
plane.
listen, I don't check a bag ever, but I also have to pay more for my seat to ensure that I'm in the proper zone to get on the flight to ensure
Yeah.
that I have overhead seats. And it's nothing to do with the cost of
It's
checking
the
the bag.
inconvenience of waiting for that damn bag to go through the carousel.
It's not so much the inconvenience of waiting; it's an inconvenience that it might get lost.
Well, okay, that's also part
That's
of it.
the
That's
big part of it. Like you can, because people be like, "Well, I'm going to like when we went to 4 cities over 17 days or something like that. None of us checked a bag. We just did a laundry halfway through.
Yeah,
That was a far easier solution. Like everywhere you go is going to have laundry somewhere,
you would think so. I'm with you. I'm on the team. Don't check a bag.
but they might have to start charging. That might be the thing. You make the check bag or the overhead that you have to buy with your seat more expensive than checking a bag, and then like people are just
Oh,
nuts
I know.
about it.
I know. They're militant about it and hoping in some ways that they're going to check their bag for
But
free
this,
at the gate.
but this is why people are lining up in the wrong zones. It's because they're trying to get on.
There needs
and the
to-
airlines don't do a great job of monitoring it.
No, because they just don't want to irritate their passengers, I guess. But what they don't realize is that they're irritating other passengers who are dealing with these line cutters.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
But
to the
it-
back of the line, dead last.
Yeah, dead last, make that the punishment, or you're kicked off the flight, one of the two. I don't really care. But
That's your like second or third strike.
Yeah.
Your
Yeah,
first
yeah, yeah.
strike is back of the line, and then whatever
Yeah,
in,
they
that,
have-
in the TSA system, they have a little note next to your name. Something one time a line cut.
habitual line cutting.
Yeah, habitual after your third line cut, off the plane.
But it creates congestion around the gate because people are just like, they're like milling about
Yeah, I
around the
know.
zones. They're lining up in the wrong
So
zones.
they're not quite in the line, but they're like ready to jump into the line the second
Yeah.
they say their zone.
And look, if I'm in zone 4, I'm exactly the same way. So I'm not saying that I'm above doing this either. I understand the need to get on the plane to make sure that you have your spot. But we need to figure out ways around this now that everyone is doing it because it's making travel far less efficient.
I agree. I don't know what the solution is. Maybe it's just first come,
Death
first serve.
penalty?
Maybe it's just first come, first serve.
I think, the airlines would probably be better charging more for it.
Or they could charge more for
Hey,
it.
you didn't pay $50, you don't get overhead. You can bring a backpack.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
it. Anything else, we're throwing it out.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. And there are some airlines that are even like draconian like that.
They are, but those are usually like the cheapo airlines.
Yeah, like the
that-
one in Ireland, it's like $1 to use the bathroom. Like they give that money
I
away.
mean,
They
that's
give that
a-
money away to charity or whatever. But like it's
That's
all
like a Europe thing in general, though, Tim.
that's
Yeah,
true.
but you
Like
have
a lot of places in Europe,
Or
you
like
got to pay
standing
to use the
room
public
only on
restrooms.
certain planes.
I
Again,
don't think that's legal.
I thought Ryanair had that.
Ryanair?
I thought so.
You have legitimate discount airlines in Europe. There are no legitimate discount airlines in North America.
No.
Like you have cheaper airlines in North
But
America.
they're not discount.
They're not $2 flights, where then your service charge $200, but it still comes out in the wash.
Yeah.
All right, that will do it on the 45th edition of CUST Corner. Garion, are you subscribed to the CUST Corner only feed?
I am.
There you go. Download, even listen to those ones. And the Pat Mayo Experience audio podcast, where you can catch new episodes of all of this stuff. I want to thank you all for watching. I want to thank Gary and Paul, and of course, Tim Undercus.
That's not my name.
You got to wait till the camera cuts to you.
Tim and August.
That is not my name.
It's not even on. You'd think being in studio now for 2 years, you would catch on to these things.
Look, don't yell at me the way you would yell at Jeff. You have to have lower expectations for me.
Why do I need to have lower expectations?
I'm not someone who's worked in sports media my whole life. I'm just a man of the people.
You've basically worked in sports media with me longer than Gary has.
Look, I can't defend myself, and I won't.
All right.
Chance and I won't.
Football's coming soon. We released the 4 best ofs from last season of In Football up on the feed and up on Mayo Media Network right now. So sub to the YouTube channel, subscribe to the audio podcast, and smash the like on the way out. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you next time.
Pat Mayo Experience.
I like that exposed brick behind you, Garion.
It's just wallpaper. But
Oh, is it?
yeah.
You could have fooled me. That
most
looks
people
like real...
seem to really like it though, except Carly. Which
That's
is
much better
hilarious to me.
fake brick than the fake brick we had at our
That
old
looks like
studio.
real brick, Gary, and that's actually a really nice setup. If you told me that was real, I'd believe you 100%.
When I was looking at the listing, I thought it was brick. And then when
I believe
showed
it.
up, I'm like,
That is really sharp, I have to say.
yeah, it's not bad. It's a nice background. I don't have to do much. The old place I had to hang stuff and
Yeah, no, it's
Try
sharp.
to make it
I think
look nice.
I think it's really nice.
All right. Thanks, dude.
yeah. You guys going golfing?
Nope. I have to go to a
Oh,
kid.
I thought Tim said on the course.
Oh, maybe he is. I'm going to a kid's birthday.
No,
party.
I'm not golfing today. I'm golfing Monday for the holiday, but I'm not golfing today.
Oh, yeah. Holiday.
Okay.
Did you make an official statement on Subway offering $20,000 to anybody who would change their name to
That's
Subway?
not nearly enough money.
Yeah, really. Well, it's free Subway for life, too.
Yeah,
Oh,
still
how
not
did
enough.
we not talk about that?
20 grand is like
It's nothing.
It's nothing.
to a company like Subway.
Yeah.
Wasn't there a time where you got free subs for life if you just got a Subway tattoo? Like that seems like a much better deal.
I agree with you because you can conceal that.
Why wouldn't you want to show it off?
Well, it's just like having Subway as your name. Like,
Subway and Undercust.
That was
How
literally
long-
you know
like,
what?
are they
This was
checking
literally
in
a
with you,
community a community
How much does it
storyline.
cost to change your name?
enough. And like, and to change your first name, the amount of inconvenience that
Again,
would be.
this is a season. What season of Community was this? Season 3, I think, where Britta dates a guy named Subway.
Like,
Really?
could you change your name, collect the 20 grand, and then just change your name back?
Oh, I don't know.
Could you make it your middle name?
Like,
See-
I think you have to make it your legal name. That was part of
Yeah,
the
but you
contest.
can make it your legal middle name.
Yeah.
Like Harry S. Truman.
I don't know
Yes,
about
that's
that.
Stanford.
It doesn't.
I go by my middle name, Subway.
No, he had two grandfathers, both with the name S, so they just gave him the middle initial S.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's very strange.
Experience!